Call her, Jacqueline. Kitty, 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 kitty. Go down and pat her, Jack. Go down and pat her. See, she's rubbing on you. She really likes you. Just bend right down and pat her. Bend right down on your legs, pal. Sit down, character. He's such a nice kitty. Hey, kitty. Come on, kitty. Come on, little kitty. You want to come see what we're doing here? Yeah, come have a look. Here you go, kitty. There you go, kitty. There you go. Yeah, that's a nice kitty. What's that? Such a nice kitty, right?
From 1997, and now this is 2011, and we just see the amount of water flow and the mud that we've got coming down, the fallen trees that have come down, and the water damage the flooding damage that's been done to our properties. And that's really the same area that we just looked at just a few minutes ago, where there was no evidence of anything, like no flooding, no mud, not even much evidence of water drainage at all. Even though there is water drainage there, it's really quite minor. What we just saw is what the ravine looked like back in '97, and it's just so, you know, so calm. There's no sign of logs coming down. There's no erosion. There's no debris buildup. And you've always said that that's what you remember when you moved in. And you moved in what year, Terry?
We moved in '89.
Sure.
And enjoyed, at least I enjoyed it, because I spent a lot of time down there just walking up the ravine.
Yeah.
And then subsequent to that, in the late '90s, when my grandchildren were being born, I used to walk with them up the ravine, and we would be able to walk the creek bed, which in the summer months was dry most of the time, with the exception of the odd little pool of water.
Yeah.
And the kids used to enjoy it because of all the gnats that were scurrying around the top.
Yeah.
And they'd stir the water with a stick, and then we'd move on to the next little puddle. Every once in a while, we might run into a little bit of water, maybe a 1/4 inch of flow, which they thought was really cool. We had rubber boots on, it wasn't a problem. And we did that for a number of years. Every year, we'd pick 1 or 2 days, and we'd all trek up, up the creek. And then we started to notice in the last number of years that the water flow was increasing, that it was muddy, that there was a lot of debris that made it very difficult for the kids to climb over.
Yeah.
They were young, and it was getting dangerous to the point that we stopped doing this.
Right.
6 or 7 years ago. We just said, you know, no more. It's getting too difficult, and their mothers were getting a little concerned that they could hurt themselves.
Sure.
Yes, and at that point in time, I found my enjoyment of the ravine had lessened somewhat. Looking at it from the top of the ravine, of course, it's still a beautiful place, but going down there was becoming a bit of a challenge, so we just ceased any activity in that ravine.
Yeah, and when you've often said when your first recollections where you could walk down the ravine from your house, and the culvert, of course, is right there, and you could walk right into the culvert.
Absolutely.
It was straight in. There was nothing.
Absolutely. There was no debris. There was very little water flow. As a matter of fact, it seemed like a very big culvert for so little water.
Yeah.
And yet it was very efficient. And when there was any rain or any problem, the water, of course, very quickly went through the culvert.
Sure.
And within hours, you know, you had, if not a dry creek bed again, there was very little water. It was never a problem. There was never a concern of anybody falling and drowning or even getting themselves injured.
That's right.
And that changed.
Yeah. And what we've seen here on this very short video is there's leaves on the ground, you know, in the creek area. And now what happens is we get flooding. The flooding floats the leaves, brings them into the creek, and just causes plugging everywhere, and sticks, and not just that, we get, and you've got a huge collection of logs and everything down at that culvert area. Is just unbelievable. And you look at here. It doesn't even have enough energy to float the leaves away.
It's a very idyllic setting in these pictures.
Oh,
but down there now, it borders on dangerous because there is so much activity. The logs, debris, as a matter of fact, a lot of glass and other stuff has kind of floated up to the surface. So I'm very careful. As a matter of fact, I tend not to even go down anymore because it just isn't a comfortable or safe place to be.
And this used to be, you know, you and your family and your dog used to come down and play here all the time, and it was just like a private park.
It was, and then, you know, as the flooding comes in and it brings all the sediment down and all the weeds start to grow. I mean, this used to be just grass, and now encroaching onto our lawn, there's more and more weeds. I'm just cutting weeds now. and it just seems to just keep filling up with mud and dirt, and now we've got land that goes like this. It's all over the place, and we don't really let the dog down here much when it's in the spring, especially because it's just so muddy, and then when we get a backfill of water and mud, it's just, we don't even let the kids down here. It's just so deep and so thick, and it's just creating weeds now when it dries up.
Yeah, I noticed, Stuart, last year you spent quite a bit of time and put a fence around.
I did, and that was to try to keep the dog from coming down here.
Yeah.
Just because it was just getting into a mud bath every time. So we've just sort of cut it off halfway and said that's where the dog can go, and sort of left it to there.